Joined by former Watergate Special Prosecutor Nick Ackerman, now a partner at Dorsey and Whitney, Sophia Nelson, former House counsel there to the GOP, and Jamil Smith, a columnist for HuffPost. I start with you, Nick. You know the old saying, one man's obstruction is another man's fight. Is this helpful to Donald Trump to say, well, I fight back and they call it obstruction?
Of course not. Fighting back, it depends how you fight back. If you fight back with a corrupt intent, which is the critical element of obstruction, that only means if you're trying to stop the investigation, just like he told Comey to stop the investigation into Flynn, that's obstruction of justice. If you're trying to get rid of the Russian investigation, that's obstruction of justice. You know, this is not a choice that Donald Trump has. It's not a choice that the lawyers have.
Well, they think it is. And that, let me go back to you. That's the other breaking news tonight. John Dowd basically coming out tonight right now and saying more or less, I'm the one who knocks. I will decide whether this interview happens.
That's not who's going to decide. Robert Mueller can give him a grand jury subpoena. If he is subpoenaed, he's going to have to testify. And he's going to have to appear before a grand jury of 23 people in the District of Columbia. There's not going to be any choice as to that. If there's going to be any kind of deal, it's going to be they're going to allow this to happen in the White House somewhere in a conference room. There's no choice here.
Yeah.
He has to provide testimony.
Jamil?
I think it's a lot of empty bravado, which we're used to seeing from the president. But here's the thing. He thinks that he can talk his way out of pretty much any situation, just as he thinks that he can govern the nation like he's run his businesses. But, you know, as Nick points out, this is a different set of rules here. And, you know, his attempt to twist everything in our reality, including the rule of law, to what he sees through his own lens, you know, to some degree has worked. But I don't think it's going to work here.
Sophia, let me read to you from the report about how these interviews go and why they might not be, to Jamil's point, something you can just bluster through. People who've appeared before Mueller's team, who spoke to the Washington Post, say the prosecutors have detailed accounts of events, sometimes to the minute, and have surprised witnesses, showing them emails or documents they were unaware the team had or that their colleagues had written.
That's absolutely true. Look, when I worked on the House Government Reform and Oversight Committee back in the late 90s, we were investigating the Clinton money scandal, whatever, Webb Hubble, all this stuff. And there's very big similarities between the independent counsel and what you do on the Hill. You're absolutely right. If they subpoena you or you get a grand jury summons to come, you got to show up. You can't not do it. You determine where. But here's the thing that matters. They do surprise you. And that's the goal, to surprise you in these interviews. And so if I'm Ty Cobb, I'm ripping my hair out right now because Trump's a horrible client. He doesn't stop. I think he wants to testify.
You're not making a comment about Ty Cobb's mustache, are you?
No, I'm not making any comments about his mustache. I'm just simply saying that.
Because Jamil has facial hair, too, if we're going to get into it. Ty Cobb, who I know, has an incredible mustache. That's just a fact.
Yeah, but on a serious note, Ari, the president wants to do this because he's ego-driven. It's all about a fight with this guy.
Right.
And his base would love it, actually. Think of it. They'd have him in a cape as super president taking on the bad FBI and the bad Robert Mueller. That's kind of the scenario that's been painted over the last couple weeks, that you can't trust these people. They're corrupt. They're out to get the president. So if he takes them on, he looks like a winner. So
Sophia makes a very adept legal point that you can get sometimes a witness to incriminate themselves by appealing to or taking advantage of their weaknesses. Ego can be a weakness.
Big one.
Nick, speak to that as well as the context of that, which is something we don't always see. Lawyers and their clients basically shadowboxing over who gets to make this call tonight.
Well, first of all, the real lawyer here is not the lawyers. It's Donald Trump. Just as you saw with his son and the statement that his son made, the statement that Kushner made, this is all being orchestrated by Donald Trump. He's calling the shots. But it's absolutely true. If he goes into a grand jury, he is going to be questioned in minute detail about conversations with Michael Flynn. That is going to be the biggest downside for him, because Flynn has detailed for Mueller's people all of the conversations, all of the things,
all the meetings, all the sanctions discussions,
all the documents.
If there was a problem there.
And Ari, their files, when you go into these things, the committee staff has everything on a timeline, and invest, as you know well, they've got it. So if you slip, you set yourself up. It is, I think Russia and those guys are giving him good advice.
Well, Jamil, take a listen here to the man we mentioned, Ty Cobb, discussing this potential interview.
The president's very eager to sit down and explain whatever is responsive to the questions. Do you have any fear of a perjury trial? No, but I think it would be foolish to not proceed without considering that possibility.
Jamil, there seems to be some daylight between Donald Trump saying, I welcome it, I talked to my lawyers, 2 to 3 week schedule, and John Dowd saying, no, I'm going to make that call. And again, something I say, and people don't like this sometimes, but in fairness to the Trump White House, Bill Clinton's lawyers did take the position that it was negotiable. Lawyers do fight things out. And so it seems to me that at a minimum, part of what we're observing, which is familiar in law and politics, is Ty Cobb, John Dowd, these lawyers tonight trying to get back the leverage that the great deal makers seemed to give away with these grand promises last night.
Right. Well, there's two things I think they're trying to accomplish here. One is to signify resistance to this entire probe, and also potentially to delegitimize it. And also, I think, what the president did yesterday, I don't know what's necessarily about trying to, make any kinds of agreements or set himself to a higher standard than Hillary Clinton or Bill Clinton. Really, he's just trying to, exhibit that he is in charge, that he will make a decision, that he is, the one who's, deciding what's going to happen, what's not going to happen. He just seems not to realize what kind of trouble he's actually in. He thinks he can repeat that there's no collusion and all this other stuff and have people believe it. Yes, maybe 40% of the country does. But it's not about whether or not, this is not a polling question. This is about wanting to ensure that, justice is done. This is a completely different arena than I think he's used to. And I think it's going to serve him badly once he, in fact, does have to testify.
Well, he is used to, Nick, civil lawsuits and civil depositions, right. And that's a long ways from criminal probes, right? That's the difference between the people's court and law and order.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a deposition that he's used to. But the grand jury, in some ways, is very much like a deposition. It's just that the stakes are just so much higher. I mean, he looks forward to this just like someone would look forward to going in for a root canal at the dentist's office. There's no way he looks forward to this. This is not a good thing for him. They are going to have him going and coming every which way on a whole series of events, and he doesn't even know what they're going to be asking him.
Nick Ackerman, Sophia Nelson, and Jamil Smith, thank you each for your coverage.